All right, let's dive into this deep dive on the Millionaire Next Door. It's going to be fun to unpack these excerpts you've shared, see what they say about building wealth in America. Just skimming through these pages, I gotta say, I'm hooked already.
Well, it's a classic for a reason you know.
Yeah.
The Millionaire Next Door, it really does challenge those assumptions we all have about what it means to be wealthy.
Yeah, for sure. So, first things first. The book, it paints this picture of millionaires that's totally different from what you see in movies, or on TV. It's not all mansions and sports cars. A lot of them, they're actually super frugal. That's got to be one of the biggest takeaways, right?
Absolutely. One of the big things that the book really highlights is that building wealth, it's often more about what you don't spend rather than what you actually earn. And this whole idea of frugality, it's not just about being cheap, right? It's a strategic approach to managing your money.
It's like they're playing the long game. You know what I mean? Instead of instant gratification, they're thinking about long-term financial security. I'm seeing this theme, like this delayed gratification thing popping up a lot in these excerpts. Did the authors go into that concept?
Yeah, they did. They argue that millionaires tend to be incredibly disciplined when it comes to delaying gratification. They're willing to forego those immediate pleasures like a fancy car or the newest gadgets, to invest their money and build wealth over time.
Makes sense. It's about prioritizing future freedom, financial freedom over keeping up with the Joneses. It's funny because one of the excerpts you sent, the book talks about how most millionaires, they never spend more than $399 on a suit. I mean, come on. That's less than I spent on my last pair of sneakers.
It's a perfect example of how their frugality, it's intentional. They get it. They understand that status symbols, they don't really correlate with real wealth. They'd rather put that money into assets that are going to appreciate over time, like real estate or stocks.
So it's not about deprivation, it's about making smart choices. But I gotta ask, if they're not flashing their wealth, how do we even know these people are millionaires? How did the authors find them?
That's a really good question. And it kind of gets to the heart of what the book is trying to do, uncover. The authors, Thomas Stanley and William Danko, they did a ton of research. They surveyed thousands of these, affluent individuals all across America. They weren't looking for the flashy types you see in the media. They were looking for the people who, quietly accumulated significant wealth, often living pretty unassuming lives in regular neighborhoods.
Wow, that's so interesting. So it's they were trying to find the hidden millionaires, right? The ones just living among us. And what did they find? Were these millionaires all born with silver spoons in their mouths?
Actually, pretty much the opposite. The book really hammers home this point that the vast majority of millionaires in America, something like 80 to 85%, they're self-made. They didn't inherit their wealth. They built it through hard work and discipline and smart financial decisions.
Oh, that's pretty inspiring. Really challenges this whole stereotype that wealth is only for a select few. It's anyone, with the right mindset and strategies, they can achieve financial independence.
You got it. And that's a big takeaway from the book. Becoming a millionaire, it's less about luck or privilege and more about adopting certain habits and behaviors.
So what are some of those habits and behaviors? What sets millionaires apart? Do they have any secret formulas or tricks up their sleeves?
Well, the book actually does present what they call a wealth formula. It calculates your expected net worth based on how old you are and your income. But, it's important to note that this formula is more of a benchmark than, a hard and fast rule.
I mean, it's not some magical equation that just guarantees millionaire status.
Exactly. It's more about giving you a sense of where you stand financially compared to, other people in your age and income group. The authors use it to categorize people as either prodigious accumulators of wealth, that's PAWs, they have a net worth significantly higher than expected, or you're an under-accumulator of wealth, that's a UAW, and you fall below the benchmark. It's just a framework, for understanding how effectively you're building wealth based on your potential.
Okay, starting to get it now. So it's less about hitting a specific number and more about making consistent progress towards your financial goals.
Exactly. And that's where those, habits and behaviors we were talking about, that's where they come in. The book identifies 7 common factors they observed in people who successfully build wealth. They call them the 7 factors of wealth accumulation.
All right, I'm all ears. Let's hear them. What are those secrets to becoming a millionaire next door?
Well, first and foremost, they live well below their means. We've already talked about that. But it's not just about spending less. It's about being mindful of where your money goes and making choices, choices that align with your long-term goals, financial goals. The second one is that they allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently in ways that are conducive to building wealth. So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, and investing your resources wisely.
Gotcha. So it's like a combo of frugality and smart planning, right? What's number three?
Number three is that they believe that financial independence is more important than displaying high social status.
So they're not driven by the need to like impress others or keep up with the Joneses. It's like that thing we were talking about before with the millionaires who live modestly and don't need to flaunt their wealth.
Exactly. And this mindset, it allows them to make those choices that put their financial well-being first, above external validation.
That makes sense. What about the other factors?
Okay, so number four is that they're good at targeting market opportunities. Basically, they have a talent for identifying and capitalizing on promising ventures, business ventures, or investments.
So they're not just working hard, they're working smart. They're looking for opportunities to grow their wealth, strategically.
Exactly. Number five is that they chose the right occupation. Now, this doesn't mean they all have super high-paying jobs. It's more about finding that path, a career path that aligns with their skills and what they're interested in, and that offers, potential for growth, financial stability.
It's like finding a job that's like personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. Right.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. What about those last two factors?
Okay, so number six is that their parents did not provide what's called economic outpatient care. Now, this is an interesting one, and we can definitely, dig into it more later.
Okay, we'll circle back to that one for sure. Number seven.
The seventh factor is that they are, good at choosing the right spouse. This really highlights how much of an impact, our partners have on our financial lives.
Oh, that's a big one. I can already tell that's going to be a whole conversation. We've covered a lot here, but there's still so much to unpack.
So you mentioned that you were kind of intrigued by that whole choosing the right spouse thing.
Mm-hmm.
The book, it really stresses how that decision, it can really impact you, your whole financial path.
Yeah, it's something I never really thought about before reading these excerpts. It makes sense though, right? Your partner's habits with money and their values, it's going to play a huge role in how things go for you guys financially.
Oh, absolutely. The book argues that couples who share similar financial goals, who are both committed to building wealth, they're way more likely to succeed, financially. They even say that being compatible financially is just as important as, all the other kinds of compatibility in a marriage.
So it's not just about finding someone you love, but finding someone who's on the same page, about money and your future. But what if one person is a spender and the other's a saver? Can those relationships even work?
The book, it acknowledges that those differences, they can definitely cause some friction. They even have this case study of this couple, Robert and Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert, he makes a good living, but he's kind of bad at managing money. Judy, on the other hand, she's much more careful with money, but gets frustrated, with Robert's spending.
Oh my gosh, I totally get that. My partner and I, we've definitely had our share of disagreements about money. It's always a learning experience. It sounds like this couple, Robert and Judy, they're dealing with something that's pretty common.
Yeah, for sure. And the book stresses that open communication is key. You got to find common ground when it comes to finances. It's not about, one person calling the shots. It's about working together to create a plan that works for both of you.
So even if you're not starting out with perfectly aligned habits, you can still build a strong financial base as a couple, right? If you communicate and compromise.
Exactly. You just got to be willing to understand each other's perspectives and find ways to, bridge those gaps. Speaking of financial habits, I'm thinking about that economic outpatient care thing we talked about before.
Yeah, that one really stuck with me. It sounds like some kind of medical term, but you were saying it has to do with parents giving money to their adult kids, right? Can you explain that a little more?
Of course. Economic outpatient care, or EOC for short, it's basically the idea that parents, they keep giving money to their kids even after the kids are grown up and could be supporting themselves.
Okay, so it's not just helping out with the bills once in a while or maybe helping with the down payment, but it's a constant flow of money from parents to their, adult children.
Right. And the book makes this point that even though these gifts might come from a good place, they could actually do more harm than good sometimes.
Interesting. I can kind of see how that could happen. If you're always getting bailed out, you might not learn to be responsible or financially independent.
That's one of the main concerns the book brings up. It argues that EOC, it can make people feel dependent, and it can stop them from, developing important skills, financial skills and habits.
So even if you start out with a financial advantage, it might not actually help you in the long run if you haven't, like, learned how to manage your money yourself.
You got it. The book highlights this couple, Lamar and Mary. They're living this, like, lavish lifestyle, all thanks to Mary's parents. They're always getting gifts, cars, vacations, even help with their mortgage. But all this EOC, it stopped them from developing, their own financial discipline.
It's like they're living in a bubble, kind of detached from, the realities of managing money.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And then the book contrasts them with this self-made sales exec, someone who lives a more, like, modest lifestyle,
Yeah.
but is totally independent, financially.
It's not about how much money you have. It's about, like, how you got it and how you manage it.
Exactly. And the book suggests that parents, instead of giving their kids, ongoing financial support, they should focus on instilling values, things like hard work, financial responsibility, and, independence.
So it's more about giving them the tools and mindset, to create their own success rather than just making them rely on handouts.
Precisely. It's about the whole give a man a fish, teach a man to fish thing. And this idea, it ties back to that whole choosing the right occupation thing. The book really pushes finding a career path that gives you both stability, financially, and also personal fulfillment.
That's something a lot of people struggle with, I think. How do you find that sweet spot, between doing what you love and making a decent living?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? And there's no, like, one-size-fits-all answer. But the book says one key is to, like, figure out your strengths and what you're passionate about, and then see how those things can fit into, a viable career. They highlight the fact that a lot of millionaires are self-employed, and they own businesses that they call dull normal.
Dull, normal. Okay, now I got to know more about that. Like, what does that even mean?
Think of businesses like, making wallboard or supplying building materials or distributing auto parts. They might not sound super glamorous or exciting, but they often provide these, like, essential goods and services that people always need.
So it's about finding these niches where you can, like, provide something valuable and have a stable income, even if it's not, the flashiest industry.
Exactly. And the book argues that these kinds of businesses, they often don't have as much competition and can be really profitable over time. They tell this story about Mr. Martin. He's this wealthy investor, and he's got a very interesting way of choosing his financial advisors. He insists on seeing their personal financial records before he'll trust them with his money.
Wow, that's pretty bold. He's not just, like, taking their word for it. He wants proof that they know how to handle money.
Right. He wants to see that they're actually good with money themselves. He's not impressed by fancy titles or big resumes. He wants to see that they're actually doing it, not just talking about it.
That's a good lesson right there. Don't be afraid to, like, ask questions and do your research when you're making financial decisions.
Oh, absolutely. And that same mindset, you can use it for everything. Evaluating opportunities, investments, even potential partners. It's all about being proactive and strategic, not just, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
So it's about being informed and, like, intentional, right, in all parts of your financial life. But I'm curious, does the book say anything about the emotional side of money? Because I think for a lot of people, finances, they're tied up with all these feelings like fear, anxiety, even shame.
That's a really important point. The book acknowledges that money is often, like, a very emotional topic. They stress that you need to understand your own, like, money mindset, how you think about money and how that might be affecting your choices.
So it's about being self-aware and, like, recognizing any beliefs about money that might be holding you back, or any baggage you might be carrying around.
Exactly. It's about challenging those beliefs and, having a healthier relationship with money. The book argues that true wealth is about more than just how many dollars you have. It's about being free, having that security to live life how you want to.
I love that. It's about aligning your choices with your values and what you want to do in life.
Exactly. And it's about realizing that wealth, it's a tool you can use to create a life that's, fulfilling and meaningful.
I love that perspective. It shifts things away from just, like, stacking up cash to using money to make your life, richer and more purposeful. And speaking of richer lives, the book also talks about, like, social status and how it can affect how you build wealth, right?
It does. The book argues that one of the main differences between PAWs and UAWs is how they think about social status. PAWs, those prodigious accumulators of wealth, they're not so worried about like showing off their wealth. They're more focused on building that long-term security.
So they're not trying to like keep up with the Joneses or impress everyone with fancy cars and clothes.
Right. They care more about being financially independent than having status symbols.
Mm.
UAWs, though, they often fall into this trap of trying to look rich, even if they can't really afford it.
It's like they're trying to like buy their way into a certain social group, even if it means hurting their finances in the long run.
Yeah, that's a common pattern the book points out.
Yeah.
They talk about this guy, Mr. Allen. He's a self-made multimillionaire, and he lives like a really modest life, even though he's super wealthy. He even refused a gift of a Rolls Royce because it didn't fit with his values or lifestyle.
Wait, he turned down a Rolls Royce. That's crazy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's the perfect example of how PAWs, they focus on what really matters to them, not on what other people think. Mr. Allen realized that accepting that gift, it would change his life in ways he didn't want.
It's about being true to yourself,
Yeah.
not letting possessions define who you are or how happy you are.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that real wealth is so much more than just money. It's about having the freedom to live life your way without feeling pressure to impress other people.
That's such a powerful message. It's about defining success for yourself, not letting society tell you what's important.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that real wealth is often in the simple things in life. Spending time with people you love, doing things you're passionate about, and, making the world a better place.
That's so well said. I feel like we've really just touched the surface of this book. There's so much wisdom and insight in it.
Yeah, there is. And one of the most important takeaways, I think, is this emphasis on taking responsibility for your finances and understanding that you have choices. The Millionaire Next Door reminds us that we're not like stuck with our situations. We have the power to create our own financial future.
That's a powerful message. It's about taking control of your finances and making choices that are right for you, for your goals and values.
You got it. It's about recognizing that building wealth, it's a journey, not like a destination. You're always learning, growing, adapting.
Love that. It takes the pressure off of like having to achieve some, perfect definition of success. And instead, it's about the process, right? Becoming the best version of yourself, both financially and personally.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It reminds us that wealth isn't just about money. It's about living a life that has purpose, that has meaning, that's fulfilling.
Well said. Okay, so I think we've covered a ton here, but there's always more to like explore. Before we, get too philosophical, I want to go back to something practical we talked about before. Passing wealth down to future generations.
Right. We talked about the downsides of that economic outpatient care. But what about the good stuff? What about the benefits of passing on wealth to your kids? What does the book suggest doing?
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. It's a topic that's becoming more and more relevant these days, with wealth becoming more concentrated.
Definitely. And the book, it stresses that you got to start early when you're teaching kids about money. It's about building good habits and instilling values from a young age, rather than just giving them a lump sum later on.
So it's about financial literacy, teaching them how to handle money, and also like setting a good example, right?
You got it. And the book also suggests focusing on like investments in education when you're actually transferring wealth. Helping pay for a child's education can give them a huge advantage, and investing in their future through, things like trusts or custodial accounts, that can help them build long-term security.
It's about giving them opportunities and resources, not creating a situation where they become dependent.
That's a perfect way to say it. It's important to remember, though, that passing down wealth isn't just about money, right? It's also about those values, knowledge, and a good work ethic.
It's about creating a legacy that's more than just a dollar amount. It's about giving future generations the tools and mindset to achieve their own success and, make a difference in the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about empowering them to build on what you've started and create a world that's more fair, sustainable, and prosperous for everyone.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this book.
There's so much in there. And I think one of the most valuable things is how it emphasizes personal responsibility and, the power of choice. The Millionaire Next Door reminds us that we're not, victims of our circumstances. We can shape our own financial destiny.
That's such a strong message. It's about owning your financial life and making choices that reflect your values and your goals.
Exactly. And realizing that building wealth, it's a journey, not like reaching a finish line. It's about constantly learning, growing, and adapting.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, right? You don't have to achieve some arbitrary definition of success. It's
Yeah.
about the process, right? Becoming the best version of yourself, both financially and, as a person.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds us that wealth isn't just about money. It's about living a life that's full of purpose, and meaning and fulfillment.
So well said. I think we've covered so much ground here, but there's still more to explore. Should we take a breath and then dive into the final part of our deep dive? All right, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into the Millionaire Next Door. As we've been talking, I've been kind of thinking about all the people I know who fit that description, The Millionaire Next Door. They're the ones who are super low key, they work hard, they're smart with their money. They might not have the fanciest stuff,
Mm.
but they've got something way more valuable, financial freedom.
That's a great point. And it really gets to the heart of the book's message, Real wealth, it's not about showing off or trying to keep up. It's about having that security, that freedom to live life how you want.
And it's about building something that lasts, like a legacy, more than just money. We talked about passing wealth down and how it's not just about giving money, but about passing on those values, that knowledge, a strong work ethic.
Exactly. It's about giving future generations the tools they need to create their own success, to make a positive impact. The book actually suggests one way to do this is by encouraging kids to go into fields that serve the affluent market.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. Can you say more about that?
Sure. So as the gap between rich and poor keeps growing, there's more and more demand for professionals who can cater to the needs of wealthy people and families. This includes things like financial planning, estate planning, tax law, even specialized healthcare.
So it's about recognizing this growing market, right? And positioning yourself to serve those clients.
Exactly. And it's not just about, having the technical skills. It's about understanding how wealthy clients think, what they value. It's about building trust, a good relationship.
It's about relationships, not just transactions.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? As more people get wealthy, they're going to need help managing all that.
Absolutely. And the book argues that those professionals who can provide that guidance, they can be incredibly successful financially and personally too.
So it's a win-win, right? Professionals build these great careers, and the clients, they get the help they need to manage their wealth.
Exactly. It reminds us that creating wealth, it's not a zero-sum game. Everyone can succeed, and we all benefit when society is more prosperous.
I really like that perspective. It's about abundance, not scarcity. It's about realizing that we're all connected, and when one person succeeds, it helps everyone.
Well said. And I think that takes us back to the core of what the Millionaire Next Door is all about. It's not just a financial how-to. It's like a whole philosophy, It's about living a life with purpose, with meaning. It's about making choices that are right for you, following your passions, and building something that's more than just money.
It's about realizing that real wealth often comes from the simplest things. Spending time with people you love, doing what you're passionate about, and making a positive impact on the world.
Perfectly put. I think we've covered a lot today, but there's always more to learn, more to explore.
Absolutely. So, to our listener, as you keep going on your journey towards financial independence, we encourage you to keep learning, keep growing, and keep working towards a life of, true wealth and fulfillment. Remember, it's not about the destination, it's the journey, right? And hey, who knows, maybe someday we'll be talking about you as the next millionaire next door.